So now we get to talk about Vera's favorite person in the entire world, Seth Rogen. Loves him, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Great guy.
So it says Seth Rogen slams critics for hurting many people with negative reviews.
Boo-hoo. Cry me a river and float upstream.
I said last time, like, people are mean to us all the time for free.
Yeah. Where's my money?
And we don't even make movies.
We don't even
we just talk about them.
Yeah, like if we have to, like, it's an unfortunate fact that in any creative endeavor, if you're going to open yourself up to be judged by the public because it's going to make you money, you have to also take in the negative stuff that comes with
you're
it.
a public figure.
And they're not even talking about, like, he's not even really just talking about, like, trolls. Remember, anybody that doesn't like you is a troll.
Yeah.
And anything I want is a human right. He's talking about critics who are invariably on their side most of the time.
Right.
These critics will bend over backwards to defend him most of the time. So if he can't even handle the critique from the people that are basically simps for him anyways, then he has got a rough life, I'm sure.
Yeah, this was on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Never heard of it.
I haven't either.
He said, I think if most critics knew how much it hurts the people that made the things they're writing about, they would second guess the way they write these things. It's devastating. I know people who have never recovered from it, honestly. A year, decades of being hurt by film reviews. It's very personal. It is devastating when you are being institutionally told that your personal expression was bad. And that's something that people carry with them literally their entire lives. And I get why. It effing sucks.
Look, I'm gonna share with you guys the YouTube comment that hurt my feelings the most. I think I've shared this in the stream before.
Cry baby Brett.
Basically, yeah. Okay, so it's never the ones that are like, this sucks, like, this, you're an idiot. Like, okay, there was somebody who, I kid you not, said, Brett seems like a really nice person, but he's just not very good at this. And that shit kept me up for like,
deep cut.
for about like,
when they cushion
an hour
the blow,
to 2 hours, like a day.
when they recognize their humanity while slapping you in the face.
Like that bothered me for a little bit, but I was over it by the next day.
I get similar comments where someone will say, you seem really knowledgeable, but I can't take you seriously with your SJW hair. Okay.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not blue. Blue is SJW
but
hair.
it's bright colored.
Yeah. Like,
orange hasn't been co-opted yet. Blue, green, pink, all co-opted.
So it's like, look, you've chosen a career that puts you in the crosshairs of people who are going to judge you.
But he thinks that he is a tortured artist, and when people criticize him, it's different. It's more personal. But like, he's not recognizing that this isn't just art, it's also a product.
Right. Yeah.
And, in a capitalist society, you need to like incentivize people to buy your products.
Well, one thing says, like, if they wanted to, they like we could just turn comments off, but that lowers engagement, and that means that people want to have their voice heard, right? So you have to understand that as somebody who's creating something, you have to open yourself up to be critiqued
the power
for your own
imbalance
benefit.
is not recognized. That really pisses me off. Like when Amazon Studios makes Rings of Power, which is already, riding the coattails of a property that was popular before.
Right.
And they're presenting it to an audience and then, quite literally silencing reviews for 72 hours after the release of it. Silencing audience critique. They're not recognizing that there's an extreme power imbalance between someone who's just typing up a negative, like possibly negative or mixed review, and literally Jeff Bezos, or Jennifer Salke, or any of these executives. Like, you are acting like a victim when all of the power is in your hands.
And what's even more funny is that this article doesn't even mention it, but he said when he gets these negative criticisms, he will go to like a nice steakhouse or his beach house. I wish every time I got criticized and my feelings were a little bit hurt, I could go to my beach house. It just
with
proves
his wife,
how
with their 0 children.
Well, he just said he will go to his beach house. So it's like,
he leaves his wife at home.
Vacation, peace out. It's just like, really, you're not struggling. It's not like you just got a negative review and you lost your contract and now you don't know what you're going to do for a job. You are someone well known in Hollywood. You're going to get another project. So what? You wasted someone else's $50 million making a movie or a show.
Go get some exercise. Don't go to your beach house. Go play basketball or something.
So he specifically mentioned Green Hornet. He said for Green Hornet, the reviews were coming out and it was pretty bad. People hated it. People were taking joy in disliking it a lot. But it opened to like 35 million, which was the biggest opening weekend I'd ever been associated with at that point. It did pretty well. That's what's nice sometimes. You can grasp for some sense of success at times. The interview felt far more personal. Green Hornet felt like I'd fallen victim to a big fancy thing. That was not so much a creative failure on our parts, but a conceptual failure. The interview, people treated us like we creatively failed, and that sucked.
Look, I get what he's saying in a lot of ways. Like, most people, even critics, aren't really privy to all the steps that go into making a project like this. And in a lot of ways, when a movie fails, it fails, and all of that blame gets attributed to like one or two people. But if people like went through the movie making process and you understand the hundreds of thousands of decisions, the hundreds of employees, all the things that have to come together and go right just to get a movie out, let alone have it be good, it is kind of a miracle that more than one or two movies a year ends up good anyways. So it's like, I get it. Like, I get the like he feels like it's unfair. Like this
but the way
part
that
of it
he whines about it is the issue.
And he's the one whose name is on it. So you're taking the profits.
Yeah,
you're
being
risking
the face of it, you're taking a risk, yes, for your reputation, but you're also making way more money than any of the people who worked on it behind the scenes.
The set designer is making the same amount of money as you, but they're also not getting the blame when it goes wrong.
Right, exactly.
It's like Santa Inc. or now the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle situation. His name is front and center because he's a producer. He's one of the voice actors in the case of Santa Inc. and
And the Santa Inc. one is what I want to talk about. Look, okay, he is so unbelievably disingenuous and cruel. Like, nothing that he's made in the realm of Santa Inc. or even the tone of what we can glean from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's no joy in any of that.
No.
It's just cynicism and despair.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Misery loves company, bro. You deserve it. Like, if you're going to make me sit through your garbage, or even the fact that you're going to make this garbage, like, visible for other people to see that they can choose to watch, you deserve to at least be criticized for it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, not maybe you don't deserve to get criticized, but you need to just, like,
you deserve
grow
to get
up.
criticized.
You're an adult and like you're open for that when you put your art out there. I think it would actually convey more artistic integrity for someone who makes something to be unbothered by criticism than to be devastated by it, because that means less of your surface level ego is wrapped up in the project and it's more about the project itself for you, you know, not you.
It feels like back in the day, the egos that actors had allowed them to rise above this type of stuff. Now they have both the ego and they're so fragile that they can't take the criticism.
And the actual quality is lower.
Yeah. Like, so
people would be happy to be a producer, a voice actor, and, you know, ultimately you're a public figure, so you're going to get criticized. Most people would be perfectly fine with taking some criticism if it meant you had this giant career and people knew who you were just by saying your name. Like, cry harder,
I feel
Seth
like
Rogen.
even politicians react this way.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
And I feel
My
like
critics. They don't know
felt
what it's really like.
My feelings, they just don't get it.
And I felt that way, like here, like when we do the show, right? It's like you have to remember that you're reaching a larger amount of people than you might on your own. So it's like, do you want to have that reach? Do you want to be able to make a show that people watch and enjoy? If so, you have to take the criticism and the critique that comes along with it. There was one the other day. I was like, I got something wrong. Oh, I got the Donnie Yen. I got his. I said he was a 6th-degree black belt in judo, and I was wrong about that. I was like,
in like
he was
jujitsu.
He was a 6th degree.
Actually...
He was a 6th degree black belt in taekwondo and a purple belt in jujitsu.
And
I was like,
on your part. Oh my God.
But when you're in a conversation like that, you don't even.
How could you mess those up?
Yeah, like, well, no, but I actually did wrong. I went through and reread it. Like, it was like, so it's not like something where I misspoke. I did. I objectively read it wrong. But the idea is like, look, you're going to mess up.
Right.
Like,
that's just being a human. human.
And when they're making movies, they're making what? A couple, like one a year. They might do a TV show. They might executive produce a TV show that they're attached to. But like if you're making content like we make and you're doing it 5 days a week, you're opening yourself up to a lot of critique all the time. And they're doing it for far less critique for far more money. So spare me if I don't cry a river or play the world's smallest violin for you.
And like my goodwill requires it to be a reciprocal thing. Like it has to be a two-way street. So if you're going to impose some moral imperative on me to watch and support what you make, which is unfair, then I'm going to be even more harsh when the thing you're making isn't worth my time.
Right.
Plus, isn't he the weirdo who was like sending people messages like, "Are you Jewish?"
Yes.
Like, and got into a fight with like Gad
extremely
Saad.
unhinged on Twitter.
And
He's fought with Gina Carano and told her that he's gonna like drive to her house and like beat her up and stuff. Like he literally,
Seth Rogen needs some help.
Yeah, like he's majorly unhinged online and needs help.
See, I think a lot of it's just like
huge
not
anger issues.
He hasn't learned how to separate himself. Like if you're reading something negative about you, put your phone down or your computer down and go do something
away.
and go do something else.
It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Again, especially for someone like Seth Rogen, whose career doesn't involve or revolve around being chronically online. He could just take a break.
They said the same. It's so funny. They did the same thing when the fantastic Ben Affleck was casted as Batman. The fantastic Batman.
I like him.
Me too. Like when he got cast as Batman, Warner Brothers said to him, they said, "Don't go online.
Right.
It's a bad idea." And they said the same thing to Halle Bailey when she got cast as the Little Mermaid. They're telling these actors and actresses now, like, look. And I agree with them. You're part of the machine. You don't need to care.
Right.
Like,
You don't.
just don't. But the thing is, for the younger actors, I don't think they'll be able to resist
Right, because
we
they're
just
on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Twitter and Instagram. They live online a lot of the time.
they're not going to be able to get away from it.
That's just how it works for them, right?
Yeah.
The older actors, I'm sure that most of them don't care. They don't check their Twitter daily, but some of them do. But
I'm with in the chat. Somebody says Gina would split Seth in two.
Oh yeah.
He would. She would definitely split Seth
what's
in two.
ironic is like she's the more powerful one but also the more self-controlled, so she didn't respond with anger. She responded like any sane person would. But I wanted to mention this, just I know this didn't like upset you as much, Brett, but like his comments about not wanting children.
Here, I'm gonna put the article up. This is an article from timcast.com, if you've ever been there.
Yeah, by the Bertman.
The Bertman himself.
So people are calling Seth Rogen the Chelsea Handler of men. And he didn't do something as egregious as her. He didn't like try to make a skit about being child-free or anything. But in every way, he's now implied that he is, at an advantage in his life and his career and his like personal character for not having a family. In this interview, this same one on Diary of a CEO, he says, like, I think I'm so much like smarter and better off for not doing this. I don't regret it. I think I've made the right choice. And it's not that he says, other people shouldn't have kids. But he just says, like, in every way, my life is better off for not having children, and I enjoy it that I don't have children. And I think, like, I have more freedom to, I guess, like, smoke weed and
go to his beach house when he gets bad reviews
and like eat steaks.
See, if he had a kid, he wouldn't have time to worry about bad
and that's
reviews.
not the like be all end all of fulfilling life. And I think that when you live a life so empty that's about consuming things, then that's why it's devastating to receive minor criticisms on your work.
To be fair, like, I don't know if I would want to subject a kid to being raised by Seth Rogen.
No,
God, no.
Yeah,
No.
like, I don't know. Like,
it's like he's demonizing having kids and having like a traditional family. And I mean, he's allowed to have his opinion. It's not like he's saying everyone else is awful for doing this, but when you're Seth Rogen and people are listening to you,
it's almost not, it's like more underhanded than demonizing traditional family. It's more like just making it into a laughing stock of sorts. Like,
you have kids.
Look at your chaotic,
really?
dirty, messy, gross, like just like uncurated life.
Right.
You know, I don't know what he means by it other than disdain.
I feel like someone he knows pissed him off, and now he's just going into an interview and saying something that he knows would piss them off.
And he also says, like, everyone I know has kids.
Right.
And
it's like, and don't you think you're the odd one out?
Well,
there?
right,
No,
that
but
means you're
that
are
doesn't
you like the
necessarily make
exception
him-
because you're
Right.
superior or because you're inferior?
Right.
I mean, I just took it as he's like, look, he's saying that, look, I've got plenty of examples of it. I'm not under the delusion. Like, he's not somebody that has no examples of people with kids and then decided that he didn't want to have them. He's seen plenty of his friends,
Right.
people he trusts and knows that have them, and he made his decision that that's not for him. I don't personally see anything wrong with that.
Right, that's
and at this
ultimately his
photo,
decision.
I don't know if I was a kid, I would be wanting that guy.
No, it's his
Like-
decision, yes.
Yeah.
But I think that the way he said this, it's not explicit, but he's putting down those other people he knows.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, he's a celebrity. They're putting down everyone that isn't them in a lot of ways. Like I'm sure there's like
Yeah.
he thinks less of the busboy who picks up his food. He thinks less of everyone, not just the people that
It's like James
have
Corden.
kids. I'm more annoyed by the people in comment sections on the videos about not having the any type of TikTok or Instagram video about that focuses around having or not having kids. The comment section's just a shit show
Yeah.
full of people arguing about whether they should or shouldn't be having kids.
What I hate more is when people do have kids and make content about regretting it and disliking their children.
Oh,
That
that's-
is
that's
such a
evil.
disgusting
Like, they're gonna find
thing
it one
to do.
day. You know that, right?
Right.
The internet is forever.
Like, all parents struggle and have a hard time
Yep.
at some point in
Yeah.
you know, the phases of being a parent, because as a child grows up it's so different, but to put something like that online is just so awful.
He could also be one of those people that maybe one day he ends up having a kid and he's like, look, like it would be nice to see somebody have a kid and be like, look, I didn't expect it to
Right.
mean
I was
as much to
wrong.
me as it did. I was
Right.
wrong.
But he would
Like,
never admit
yeah.
that he's wrong, because that's just not who he is.
Yep. And he's like, maybe what he
Clearly.
did is like, he's like, I had a kid so he could read the negative comments for me. And like, I have my kid like screen my comments so that I don't have to look at the negative ones. Plus the next generation of kids are also more combative online. Like most kids these days who have grown up with negativity online have learned to like embrace the fire in a way more
cyberbullying
than
like isn't a thing anymore
It's
because
like-
all interactions online are toxic
yeah,
now.
like when you go into a discussion with someone in a comment section, you assume negativity in tone. It's why the internet is so awful, right? Like
because you'll only pipe up to disagree.
you could have the same discussion with someone around a table and it be perfectly pleasant. Those same exact words typed become a battle.
I don't
Become a
know.
fight.
I think like sometimes if you have a pleasant conversation IRL, like in the meat space, and it seems to not be confrontational, it's because people are like
Thank you.
suppressing their disagreements, and I don't think that's always a good thing.
That's I actually had like an old like just recently had like, you know, when you get like the Instagram thing, it says like you posted this long ago, and it was something basically to that degree. It says if one thing the internet has taught me, it's like it's just how much like we suppress what we actually think when we're talking with someone because it's part of the social contract. But it's also because like you make a value judgment, right? Like you're talking to your friend and
Like
he
we're
says
trying
something
to enjoy dinner, and I'm not going to argue with you about Roe v. Wade.
because it's not, but it doesn't even have to be something that's serious. But it's like,
whatever,
it's
yeah,
not the
anything,
point of this discussion to disagree about what your views are on abortion. It's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the point. If anything, your goal is to get people off that topic as quickly as possible because you're like, okay, like I'm trying to eat here. Could we talk about
Right.
literally anything else? And the internet encourages you to disagree, whereas the social contract in the real world discourages it.
Right.
And that's fine. Like I
Manners.
Like,
There's
People
no
are
online
sublimating their
manners.
desire for conflict
Yeah.
into internet fighting.
But I also like when I see people fighting, like when people say those things in the real world and they start the fight, I just feel like they're doing it on purpose. Like they want to have the disagreement in the real world.
People like
yeah,
arguing,
that they like to
and like
fight.
confrontation.
They like to fight.
especially online,
It
as
is.
we're
Where there's
talking
less
about.
consequences and it's easier to
Right.
dehumanize a person because you're not actually looking at, you don't get to see a manifested image of what they are as a human. You see some avatar or a picture you can barely discern.
Right.
And it's easier
If
to
Seth Rogen were in the room right now,
Seth, you suck, we would say.
would we still yell at him and tell him that he's a whiny baby? Quite
Yeah.
possibly.
You probably, but like I would probably at the very least try to get like give him the most charitable.
I'd ask for more context.
Yeah, like I would try to get the most charitable definition of what he's talking about. But I'm also somebody that's not inherently combative.
Are the film critics in the room with us right now?
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you see them? Are they here with us right now?
Yeah.
Like,
The lights flicker.
I would love to know who he's talking about. Like, who's a really bad film critic? That
Name
you can think of?
names.
That's
you
my
know?
problem with people in Hollywood is they're so afraid of losing that position they have. It's like if you had such a bad experience and someone like said something so awful to you, why wouldn't you call them out? Because you're afraid they're going to give your next movie like a bad review. Who cares? They probably would anyway if they don't like you then.
And it's not like he's exactly making a bunch of movies that Hollywood's gonna rail against.
Yeah.
I think at least he is not making this comment targeted at fans' opinions of his
Yeah,
movies, you know?
I still
He's
feel
talking
like
about the critic
secretly
class.
he might have meant like any kind of criticism.
criticism?
Well, no, because he wouldn't call them fans; he'd call them trolls.
Right.
Like critics, at least get the benefit of the doubt and get called critics.
Well, back
They're
when it was Santa's
professionals.
Inc., it was we were white supremacists.
yes, that's how
Instead
dare
of
you?
even trolls.
It's like, and nobody criticized the fact that a Jewish man was making a movie about a show about Santa.
Well, the critics didn't even review Santa Inc.
no, because it was
Right.
it was like
they,
a negative.
They didn't even
yeah.
right. If you go to Rotten Tomatoes, there's not even any critic reviews there.
I got-
they refused to touch that situation.
I got like negative. Like I got through one episode and I literally almost threw my remote through the TV. It was worse than Velma. That like
Yeah.
it was the vulgarity in Velma probably ended up being worse overall.
Yeah.
But there was just something. Maybe it's because Christmas is supposed to be inherently positive
Right, it's supposed
and
to be
full of
happy.
joy and happiness, and so the negative, clearly cynical, snarky tone felt even
Yes.
more
You
disingenuous.
didn't
and
think
mean.
that Violent Night
No,
was a little bit cynical?
not really. I mean, that's
Santa you know,
Inc. is supposed to-
puking alcohol
I still
down
feel like
on the
they
city.
were different though.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to be the same. Where
one is literally crapping
One
on
is
the tradition of
attacking,
Christmas
right,
and the
okay,
idea
Christmas.
of
To be
Santa.
fair, I haven't seen Santa Inc. and I probably won't.
No,
Yeah,
you would.
it was just crapping on the holiday and the people who celebrate it and kind of the idea.
It was
of
like after the whole
Christmas.
Starbucks cup controversy, right?
To be fair, like the characters in the family characters in Violent Night are a little bit like that. Like the crappy sister,
The
and
TikToker son.
the crap. Yeah, they're kind of a weird microcosm of what those characters
The
in Santa Inc. all
D-list
represent.
actor,
Yeah.
brother-in-law.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.